Alright, hello all. This is my draft analysis for the SPC Summer League. Uh, it's about 5 weeks and teams are locked by week 2. And I'm just going to break down what I drafted, why I drafted it, and what's the role on the team. So starting off with our first mon, we have Mew. It's super versatile, base 100s across the board, can run whatever item I want. I can be like something like leftovers with something like soft boiled, U-turn, heal bell, and then like psychic move. This seems pretty standard. Or I can run like, so this is like your typical cleric-esque with a stab psychic and momentum with longevity and soft boiled and heal bell to help out the rest of the team. I could go Calm Mind setup. I can run SD setup with like SD Drain Punch, Zen Headbutt, and Soft Boiled for longevity. This covers everything essentially. Drain Punch for your fighting types, for your steel types. Zen Headbutt hits everything else if I can land, and at +2 I should be doing a lot of damage. So this is like physical setup. I could run special setup with like Calm Mind, Stored Power with Focus Blast. Once again, covers everything. Soft boil for longevity purposes. So it can do anything I wanted, and having it at first round at like 17 points, which was a steal in my eyes. It does everything, and base hundreds across the board, like I said. Our next mon is Zygarde, relatively bulky with base 108 HP and 121 defense. I could run like a sub lefty set potentially with like substitute, coil, 1,000 arrows, and then dragon coverage like Scale Shot. Once again, hits everything. I do have to watch out for like sound moves like Pixelate Hyper Voice from Sylveon, from Mega Guard, all that, but this covers everything once I get a coil up. And a +1 speed boost from Scale Shot. And what I needed was a wall and to complete or to continue on my Fairy Dragon Steel core, where we have our Dragon and Zygarde, our Steel and Corviknight, which is another Fizdef wall. Once again, lefties is pretty common. I could go leftovers. I could also go Rocky Helmet to just punish physical attackers, run like U-turn, Defog, Iron Defense, Body Press. Pretty standard right here. I could run Aka Berry, or any berry in general, Aka, or the Electric Resist, which is Wakan. It also gets pressure, which is great for PP stalling. Mirror Armor is interesting for other Intimidate users, which I can just come in on, take my -1, give them a -1 as well. Our next one is Greninja. Gives me speed, base 122 as my fastest mon right now. Offensive, water type, has dark coverage as well, being part dark as well. Could go Dark Pulse, Spikes, U-turn, and like Hydro Pump or Surf. Like something like Specs. This is just hitting everything pretty hard. Unfortunately, it is Torrent, but that's not too much of a big deal. It still does damage. It still breaks. I love it. We now have our bulky water and Rotom. Once again, leftovers is pretty common on this team. I could run like Ogwav, like one of those 33% berries. And then Shaka if I'm facing something with Moldbreaker, which would go through my Levitate. something pretty standard is like Volt Switch, Hydro, Defog, Pain Split. Once again, Volt Switch for momentum. This team has a lot of momentum, which I really like. It allows me to get into my breakers like Specs Greninja, set up Zygarde, maybe even set up Mew. We have our first Spadafmon and our Fairy type to complete our Fairy Dragon Steel Core and Florges. I honestly love this one, it's great. Once again, leftovers, pretty common. I could run a Steel Resist Berry, which is Babiri Berry, or I could run Kasib, no, not Kasib, Kebium, my bad, for poison attacks. It doesn't get that many great abilities, but it's fine. It's a solid Wish Passer with like Wish, Protect, Moonblast, and then maybe Synthesis, maybe Coverage. It gets some decent coverage in Energy Ball, Dazzling Gleam, Moonblast, Psychic. I could also put like Toxic on here as well, just to chip everything. Then we get into Vanillux. I love this mon because it's like a cheap hail setter. Its stats aren't too bad. It can be a solid Scarfer, once again a better Specs user. Light Clay with Aurora Veil. If I can spell. Yeah. Which is nice. And it just clicks Blizzard and Hail and does damage. We get Miltank, which is another rocker, which takes pressure off of Mew if I want to run Hazard's Mew. I don't necessarily have to use Hazards with Mew since I have Miltank, Greninja, and then our next pick in Palo Sand right here, as you can see. But it gets like Stealth Rock, Milk Drink, Body Slam, and then maybe like Toxic or Seismic Toss. It's pretty basic. It just sits there, tanks hits. Base 100 which is nice as well for a physical wall. We get into Palo Sand. This move should like stop water moves altogether, but I mean this ability, but it's whatever. It's fine. I could run this Banded. I could run it Specs. Once again, Bulky Leftovers, Rocky Helmet, any of the damage resist berries, so like my water resist berry and Pasho Berry, or even Yachi for ice moves. It does get some nice moves in like Giga Drain, Earthquake, Earth Power. It does get Scorching Sands, which is nice. Has a chance to burn, which is same odds as Scald with the lower power. A good wall, once again, physically with 110 defense and 85 HP. Octavish, this is our main, once again, another breaker with Slush Rush. So I can just run Slush Rush Band with Vicious Rend, Freeze Dry for water types, and then 2 coverage moves if I want to run like Crunch and Crash. For my physical ice move, Ice Fang works too. Freeze Dry is just for those bulky waters because none of the moves I have hits bulky waters for decent damage. And our last mon, which is kind of a mean pick, kind of a not. It's got 3 abilities, which are all alright. Chlorophyll and Solar Power only work in Sun. I'm running Hail, so not great. But Early Bird does make Rest Talk shenanigans kind of nice. And its coverage isn't god-awful. It gets ground coverage, it gets grass coverage, and that's pretty much all you need. Grass and ground. Yeah. I wish it did get Weather Ball just so it synergizes well with the Hail, but that's asking for too much. Although base 85 SPDF isn't too bad, and like base 75 HP, so it can tank. It can if I'm running like max with like a bold, not bold, but calm nature. It can eat some non-super effective hits pretty well. And yeah, that's the team.